We spend so much of our lives chasing things, money, fame, attention. But sometimes when you stop looking for what you want, you end up finding what you need. Kade lay carelessly on the counter, lost in thought. His mind drifted between dreams and regrets, his eyes dull from another slow day at the store. Whenever a customer came to pay, he dragged himself up, scanned their items, and packed them without much care. His words were always the same, a tired "have a good day," spoken without meaning. Even when customers replied kindly, he never smiled back. His empty tone annoyed them until they left angrily, promising never to return. But Kade didn't care. Once they were gone, he went right back to lying on the counter, sighing deeply as if he'd rather be somewhere else. After a while, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. It was a text from Ellie. She asked him to meet up. That alone made him sit up a bit straighter. Ellie never acted that way. Something about it felt strange. His thoughts started running wild. Maybe she was pregnant. Or maybe she just wanted to end things between them. Either way, it couldn't be good news. He was still lost in thought when a customer's angry voice broke through his silence. The woman had been calling him for a while, asking to check out. Kade snapped out of his reverie, scanned her items, and handed her the bag. As she left, his manager appeared. His expression showed nothing but disappointment. He told Kade that his behavior was driving customers away, and that if he didn't stop bringing his gloomy attitude to work, he'd be fired. He even told him to smile. Even if it's fake, it won't kill you. And then, to make things worse, he called him by the wrong name. Kevin. It's Kade, he corrected sharply, his voice tight with frustration. But the manager didn't care. He walked away, leaving Kade standing there, silent and annoyed. Kade sighed again. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a normal meetup. Something about it felt off, and deep down, he knew it was going to change everything. At the restaurant, Kade sipped his drink loudly while Ellie spoke. Her voice trembled slightly, but her words were clear. The relationship wasn't working out. He didn't look surprised at all. He just kept chewing his food as if nothing had happened. Ellie gave a small, sad smile and said she wasn't surprised by his reaction. Kade only shrugged and muttered that he had already seen it coming. Ellie lowered her head, sadness flickering in her eyes. She asked if he understood why she was ending things. Kade nodded without hesitation. He said he did, that she was the third girl he had dated that month, so there was no need for her to explain further. Anger flashed in Ellie's eyes. She gripped her cup tightly, then suddenly poured the drink on him. She told him to stop seeking comfort from women and to find it within himself. Breaking hearts, she said, was not healing. It was selfish. Kade sat still, shocked and silent, trying to explain himself, but Ellie stood up quickly. Before leaving, she said she hoped he would find his heart someday. People around them started laughing and whispering as Kade lowered his head, feeling the stares on him. He didn't say a word. He just sat there, thinking about everything that had just happened. Later that night, Kade lay sprawled on his bed, staring lazily at his phone. The screen was empty. No new messages. He already knew Ellie wouldn't text him again. With a sigh, he rolled onto his back, her words replaying like a broken record. Was he really selfish? Maybe that was why every relationship he ended before it even began. His cat, Cosmo, sat on the edge of the bed, her round eyes fixed on him. Kate turned his head toward her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He told her he was glad to have her around. At least she never left. Then, almost as if trying to make himself laugh, he asked if she happened to know where his heart had gone. Cosmo simply stared back at him, in silence. Kade gave a dry clucker at her blank expression, as if her silence had answered him. He murmured, half to himself, that he felt the same way. Then, out of nowhere, a loud crash shattered the stillness of the night. The sound jolted him upright, a bright light spilled through the window, cutting across the dark room. Frowning, he swung his legs off the bed and moved toward the door, his curiosity winning over his caution. Outside, the air was cool and strangely still. The light ahead was almost blinding, glowing from something that pulsed and rattled like it didn't belong on Earth. He stepped closer, his heartbeat quickening as the shape came into view. Some kind of object, shaking violently. And then, before he could make sense of it, something burst out of it. A woman. That night, Kade didn't find his heart. Instead, he found something, or rather, someone, completely out of this world. She was still in the air, floating like something out of a dream. Kade stood frozen, staring in shock. Then, she started to lose balance. Her body swayed, and before he knew it, she began falling fast toward the ground. Without thinking, Kade ran. His heart raced as he reached her just in time to catch her. But the force of her fall was too strong. They both crashed backward into the strange glowing object she had come from. Everything spun for a moment. Kade groaned, holding his head. He felt dizzy and confused. Then a loud beep came from beside him. He looked up and saw a bright screen with strange writings moving across it. None of it made sense to him. He looked down at the girl in his arms. Slowly, her eyes opened, and she lifted her hand weakly, making a small sign. Kade's eyes widened, and before he could stop himself, he let out a loud scream and stumbled out of the object, his heart pounding hard. Outside, he ran his hands through his hair, trying to calm down. His chest rose and fell quickly as he tried to breathe. He had no idea what he just saw. Kade took a slow breath, trying to calm himself. His hands were still shaking, but he forced himself to think. The girl didn't look dangerous, just weak and lost. Still, he wasn't sure what to do. He turned his head and looked back at the strange object. What should he do now? Should he help her or just walk away? Kade pushed open the door carefully, the strange woman resting on his back. He carried her inside and gently set her down on a chair. For a moment, he just stood there, breathing hard, still unsure if what he was doing was smart. Then he went to grab the first aid box from the shelf. Kneeling in front of her, he looked at her closely. Her skin looked normal, but her clothes were unlike anything he had ever seen, smooth, shining faintly under the light. She really did look like someone out of this world. Was she okay? Was she even human? As he stared, her eyes fluttered open. She let out a startled squeal, and a stream of strange words poured from her mouth. Kade froze, confused. He didn't understand a single thing she said. Was that an alien language? Before he could move, she reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was warm, soft, too human for someone from another planet. She spoke again, still in that unknown language, her voice calm now. Then her fingers brushed through his hair and traced his ear as if she were studying him. Kade frowned, pulling back slightly. "Is she making fun of me?" he muttered under his breath, though she clearly didn't understand him. Then she cupped his cheeks gently, forcing him to look at her. Her touch was light but firm. Kade's breath caught when he met her eyes, deep, glowing eyes that looked like tiny galaxies swirling with light and color. She leaned closer. Little by little, her gaze locked on his. His heart raced. Who was she? Why did she seem so familiar? Before he could think of an answer, she suddenly placed her forehead on his as if creating a telepathic connection. Kade's eyes widened in shock. Then, in a clear, gentle voice, she spoke again, this time slower, as if trying to make him understand, and said her name was Zaida. Even as she introduced herself, Kade was still staring at her, completely confused. After a moment, it looked like he came back to his senses. His voice shook as he asked what she did to him and who she really was. Zaida placed a hand on her cheek, thinking for a while before she finally spoke. After some time, he sat still, trying to take in everything she was saying. She told him she came from a planet called Zodia, where people had special powers like levitation and telepathy. She explained that she used telepathy to learn his language through their head contact, and that for her to understand him better, she would have to do a longer mind read. Kade looked at her with wide eyes, trying to understand her words, but he couldn't help noticing how clearly she already spoke. Zaida's curiosity soon took over as she looked around his home. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she moved from one thing to another, studying them like treasures. As she got closer to the television, Kade asked her about her ship and the crash. She turned to him calmly and said she was flying the ship for the first time. He couldn't believe his ears. He started scolding her for flying something she didn't know how to control. but she didn't seem to be listening. Her attention was already caught by something else sitting on his shelf. She gasped loudly, picked it up, and squealed, asking him how he got it. Kade shouted at her to put it down immediately, calling it his precious child. She apologized and carefully set it back where she found it. He sighed deeply, rubbing his forehead. Everything that was happening felt too real, too strange to even question anymore. He dropped onto the chair and exhaled heavily. Zaida looked at him quietly for a moment before walking over to sit beside him. She told him softly that if this was all new to him, he was taking it quite well. He scratched his head awkwardly, muttered a small thank you, and asked her why she came to Earth. Before she could answer, her eyes suddenly widened in shock. She gasped, moved behind him, and pointed toward the corner of the room, shouting that his house had been invaded. Kade turned to look and saw Cosmo, his cat, standing there staring at them. He sighed and told her it was just his cat, not an invader. She peeked from behind him, still unsure, her face pale with fear. He picked up Cosmo and told her to try petting the cat. She hesitated, reaching out slowly and touching it awkwardly. The cat meowed softly, and Kade showed her how to do it right. When she copied him, Cosmo purred happily under her hand. She jumped in surprise and asked nervously why she felt like the cat was about to explode. Kade laughed and explained it was called purring. It meant the cat liked her. She stared with wonder, her eyes wide with amazement. She continued petting Cosmo as she looked around again. She said Earth already seemed so amazing and different that she didn't want to go back to Zodia. She explained that she had planned to make a living on Earth using data from her planet, but now she realized the data might have been wrong. Everything looked so strange, his clothes, his hair, his eyes, even his ears. Kade smiled awkwardly and told her that everyone looked different on Earth. Her face lit up with excitement as she stepped closer to him, asking if that meant she could stay and live like an Earthling. He shrugged and said that people might just think she was a cosplayer, nothing more. She smiled brightly and thanked him, saying she was so sappy. Kade smiled softly, knowing she meant to say happy, and muttered, "You're welcome," still wondering how a normal night had turned into something completely out of this world. Then she looked at him with wide, curious eyes and asked him where her room was. Kade froze, staring at her in shock. Her room? For a moment, he thought he had heard wrong. He blinked and asked what she meant, and she simply repeated the question, tilting her head like it was the most normal thing in the world. He raised his voice suddenly, telling her that she couldn't just stay with him, that he already had enough to deal with. His tone startled her, and she stepped back, her face falling. Realizing how harsh he sounded, Kade ran a hand through his hair and sighed. He apologized softly, saying the whole situation was strange to him and that he didn't even know where to begin. Zaina's expression softened, but her eyes looked desperate. She pleaded quietly, saying she couldn't go back to her planet. Her voice trembled as she begged him to let her stay just long enough to learn how to live like an Earthling. She promised she would leave once she understood enough and that she would find a way to repay him someday. Kade groaned under his breath, rubbing his face with both hands. He couldn't believe this was happening. First an alien crash, now a house guest from another planet. When he finally looked up, Zaida was still watching him with hopeful eyes. He sighed deeply, realizing he was already giving in. This was going to be harder than he thought.
Outside, he stood before the strange object, staring at it closely. Slowly, he reached out and touched it. He had always believed that life existed beyond Earth, but never did he imagine that he would be the one to actually find proof of it. The silence around him broke when Zaida stepped out, her face bright with excitement. She smiled and said she had finally found her container. He was too stunned to speak at first, his mind struggling to catch up with what his eyes were seeing. Then he asked her about the ship, saying it wasn't a good idea to just leave it out there like that. She agreed and explained that she had stolen it to escape from her planet, Zodia. He grinned faintly at her words, telling her that was all the more reason to get it away from his house. She asked if he didn't like it, and he told her that he didn't, that if anyone found it, she would be taken away and cut open by scientists. Zeta only smiled at him, calm and unbothered. She told him not to worry and asked for a moment. She walked toward the object again and touched it gently. Right before his eyes, the ship began to fade until it disappeared completely. Zeta explained that their ships were built with cloaking devices, meaning the ship was still there, but no one would be able to see it, not even people passing by. He stood frozen, unable to believe what he was seeing. It was too strange, too unreal. Of course, he told himself it would take a long time to get used to something like this. Back inside the house, he decided it was time to set some rules for her. She might have come from another world, but if she was going to stay with him, she had to follow some order. The first rule, he said, was to contribute. He didn't want to clean up after her or treat her like a child. She had to do her part. As he spoke, she quietly repeated the rule under her breath, almost like she was trying to memorize it. Her eyes widened a little, as if she found the idea strange, but he ignored her expression and went on. The second rule he mentioned was to obey. The word, however, did not sound right to him, so after thinking for a moment, he replaced it with trust. He preferred it that way because it sounded fairer and kinder. The look of surprise on Zeta's face grew even larger, and she repeated the word softly under her breath as if trying to understand it. Nothing came to mind for the last and final rule, so he said it was to be determined. He did not explain what he meant by that, but she still whispered the words again like a student trying to memorize a lesson. He hoped she was listening carefully and not just repeating after him for fun. After a short silence, he thought of something else and asked if she ever slept. Zeta smiled in response and said she did, even bringing along her sleeping garments. She turned to her small box and began searching through it. When she finally found what she was looking for, she held it up proudly. He stared at the clothing, feeling uncomfortable with what she was showing him. She continued by saying that she also brought something for warmth, but as she took it out, he quickly stopped her. He told her that this was where the second rule came in, meaning she was not allowed to wear that particular item. She softly repeated the second rule, trust, as though confirming it in her own way. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, motioning for her to follow him. He took her to his bedroom and opened one of his drawers, searching for something she could wear. After a moment, he pulled out a shirt. It had a few holes in it, but it still looked decent enough. He handed it to her without much thought. Zeta's face lit up with excitement as she collected it from him. That was when he really looked at her for the first time. She looked small, almost fragile, her movements light and delicate. His eyes trailed down to the tights she wore, and for a brief second, his thoughts drifted. Damn, she was thick. Her figure was like a cute little pear, he thought to himself. A pear? Seriously? Get yourself together, Kade. But before his thoughts could wander any further, her voice snapped him back to reality. He blinked, realizing she had called him. He quickly apologized and told her to take a shower. His cat, who had been resting lazily on the bed, stretched and purred as if amused by the whole situation. In the bathroom, he showed her how everything worked, how to turn the tap, use the soap, and adjust the water. He asked if she understood, and she nodded with a small smile. Satisfied, he turned to leave. Just as he stepped out, her voice echoed behind him, cheerful and sincere, thanking him for helping her. He replied softly, telling her to call him if she needed anything, shutting the door behind him. Back in his room, he dropped himself onto the bed with a sigh. His mind felt heavy. He didn't know what to make of the situation. He couldn't just abandon her. She was clearly lost and alone, but he also had his own problems to deal with. As he lay there, he knew that sleep would not come easily tonight. Time passed, and then he heard her voice again. It startled him so much that he jerked upright on the bed. She had come out of the bathroom, her long, damp hair clinging to her shoulders, wearing his old shirt and the sweatpants he had given her. For a moment, he just stared. She looked familiar, too familiar. Something about her reminded me of someone I once knew. That thought gave him an idea for the third rule. He stood up slowly, walked toward her, and spoke in a calm, almost casual tone. No feelings.
He told her that he knew the rules sounded silly, but he just didn't want any awkward tension between them. When he noticed the sudden sadness, or rather confusion on her face, he quickly tried to explain himself. He said he didn't mean that nothing like that could ever happen. He only wanted her to understand that it would be a problem if it did. His words seemed to make things even more uncomfortable, so he began to talk again, saying random things, trying to change the topic and fill the silence. But she didn't say anything at first. She simply reached out, touched his hands gently, and told him that it was all right. Her voice was soft but steady. She said rule 2 was trust, so she would place her trust in him as long as he helped her. She even promised it. He looked at her quietly for a while. She seemed so honest, and as much as he wanted to believe her, a small thought crossed his mind. Even though she clearly needed help, wasn't she being a little too careless?
The next morning, his alarm went off sharply, breaking the silence of the room. The alarm showed 8 o'clock. Groaning, he reached out and switched it off, squeezing the pillow in his face, hoping to fall back asleep. But just as he closed his eyes, he began to hear noises coming from the room. At first, he tried to ignore them, but they only grew louder, things shifting, clattering, moving around. Assuming it was his cat, he shouted for her to calm down. But when he opened his eyes and looked toward the direction, it wasn't the cat at all. It was Zaida. She was in the parlor, moving things around and examining them with wide, curious eyes. When she noticed him, she greeted him brightly, saying she hadn't meant to disturb his sleep, she was only curious. This was gonna be a long day. A few minutes later, breakfast was served. A plate of bacon and eggs and a glass of orange juice sat in front of her. She stared at it with interest, as if she had never seen such a meal before. Then she looked up at him with pure joy and thanked him, calling him Earthling. He raised an eyebrow and told her that he had a name. He added that if she went around calling people Earthling, they would think she was strange. Zaida made a weird face as she chewed, saying she didn't want to be seen as strange. Kade sighed quietly to himself. He knew he had so much work ahead of him, and somehow he already felt doomed. He told her to just call him Kade and handed her a napkin. As she wiped her mouth, she began to observe him carefully, the way he drank, the tattoo on his arm, the earrings he wore. After studying him for a moment, she calmly said that he was very ugly. The words hit him so suddenly that he almost choked, spitting out the drink in his mouth. He stared at her in disbelief and muttered under his breath about how blunt she was. She didn't seem to notice. She just kept eating. He told her that he had cooked for her, and she could have at least kept that comment to herself. But she only looked at him and asked if she said something bad. His eyes widened as he shouted that she had just called him ugly. She looked confused at first, then suddenly gasped, as if realizing something. She quickly said she meant to say unique, not ugly, and apologized, explaining that she wasn't used to his language yet. Then she smiled and said that he was actually pretty. A small smile tugged at Kade's face, but he kept it cool as usual, saying it sounded like she was teasing him. Her smile slowly faded, and she looked down sadly, saying that maybe she wasn't meant to be an Earthling after all. The room went quiet for a while after that. As he cleared the table and washed the dishes, Kade's thoughts drifted. Having an extra person to care for would definitely make things tighter. He spoke out that he needed to hurry and get ready for work if he didn't want to lose his job. While he washed, Zaida asked what kind of work he was talking about. He explained that to survive on Earth, people had to earn money. Then he turned to her and asked if people didn't have jobs on her planet. Her expression turned distant. She said, maybe they did, but she didn't have one. The sadness in her voice made him pause for a moment. Then he quickly finished up, put on his jacket, and told her that he was heading out. Before leaving, he asked if she would be fine alone, and she nodded, saying she'll be okay. He reminded her not to open the door for anyone, and also to feed Cosmo, the cat. He showed her where to find the cat's food, and she nodded again, saying she understood. He gave her one last look before stepping out. The door closed behind him with a sharp sound, and Zaida stood there waving cheerfully until he was gone. As Kade drove off to work, a strange feeling settled in his chest. Everything seemed fine, but something inside him felt uneasy. He couldn't explain it, but he was getting bad vibes, and he didn't know why.
At work, something unusual was happening. A female customer stood at the counter, staring at Kade as if he were some famous musician. It was because the ever-frowning Kade, known for his cold and distant attitude, was actually smiling. With a bright, practiced grin, he told the customer to have a lovely day and to remember to bring back her spender bucks for a special discount. The woman turned red, blushing to herself as she walked out of the store. She wondered if he had multiple personality disorder, but whispered that she didn't care. She would come back just to see his face again. As soon as the door closed behind her, the smile vanished from his face. His usual frown returned instantly. His imaginary battery was at 10%. With a groan, he ran his hands through his hair and muttered that he couldn't keep doing this much longer. Just then, he heard a crash. When he looked up, his manager was standing nearby in shock, clearly amused. He told Kade that he was proud of him for finally taking his advice, smiling at customers, even advertising coupons. Then the manager walked closer and playfully grabbed the front of his shirt, shaking him slightly and shouting that he wanted to know what had happened to Kyle. Kade's face darkened. He hated when his manager called him that. He yelled that his name was Kade, not Kyle, and told the man to let go of his shirt. His patience was wearing thin, and his limits had grown shorter by the minute, now at 8%. Later, as he folded clothes on one of the display tables, his manager was still talking nonstop. He barely listened, only pretending to nod while the man rambled. The older man grinned, saying that maybe something else was behind Kade's sudden friendliness. He teased him, asking if he had fallen in love. Kade didn't even look up. He just muttered that he was told to be friendly to customers, not to chat with the manager. His boss crossed his arms, saying that Kade should stop being so grumpy all the time. Then, as if remembering something, the manager added that maybe Kade's bad mood came from worrying about a new pet left alone at home. Kade froze for a moment, shocked that he was even close to guessing something true, but he quickly brushed it off, saying that the manager was nowhere near the answer. Still, as the man walked away, Kade found himself thinking about it. Why was he so worried anyway? Zaida wasn't a helpless child. She could take care of herself. At least, he hoped she could. At home, Zaida was doing the dishes. As she finished, she held it up, smiling proudly at her work. She told herself that she was learning a lot just by observing the Earthling and only needed to observe him a bit more. Feeling curious, she decided to look around the house and study everything. She opened one of the rooms and began checking the things inside. She even went to the toilet, touching and sniffing everything. When she opened a drawer and lifted a pair of underwear, she gasped and said softly that it looked cute. But when she saw that the drawer was full of them, her face turned puzzled. Then her eyes caught a small book tucked under the pile of underwear. She picked it up, flipping through the pages. When she saw the pictures inside, her eyes widened. She whispered to herself that Kade was some sort of pervert. But as she kept turning the pages, her cheeks slowly turned red. Embarrassed, she quickly dropped the book back on the table. She thought to herself for a moment, trying to figure out what to do next. Then she turned to the wardrobe, walked towards it, and opened it. She looked at the clothes hanging neatly and shook her head, thinking that Kade had strange taste in outfits with odd designs. Then she looked down and noticed a few shoes and a small gift box placed at the bottom of the wardrobe. Her attention stayed fixed on the box. She bent down, taking a closer look at it. She reached for it and was just about to open it when the door suddenly opened. Cosmo the cat meowed loudly from the doorway, making her jump and squeal in surprise. She had completely forgotten about him. Quickly, she shut the wardrobe and hurried to the cat, guiding him toward the kitchen, asking if he was all right, hoping she hadn't starved him. Behind the wardrobe, the small box laid in the dark, holding mysteries of its own. In the kitchen, Zaida cheerfully told Cosmo that she had found his food and dropped the bag on the table with a loud thud. She bent over and asked the cat if it was really his food, then reached out her hands to pick him up, calling him Little One. Cosmo's ears twitched and his face twisted into a frown, clearly not enjoying the nickname. Zaida placed him gently on the table, saying the Earthling had tasked her with feeding her and hoped she was doing it correctly. Cosmo looked shocked to be sitting there. She opened the bag and dipping her hand inside, curious to see what it looked like. The food looked tiny. She nodded to herself and said maybe it was because the cat was small, so its food was small too. She turned back to Cosmo and told him to open his mouth, but when he refused, she tried to push a bit of the food toward him. The moment the food was about to touch his mouth, Cosmo hissed and jumped off the table. Zaida gasped and called after him, shouting that she needed to feed him just like the Earthling had instructed. But Cosmo ignored her and ran out of the kitchen. She hurried after him and found him sitting in a corner, licking his fur. She began to apologize and begged him to take just one bite. Cosmo didn't move or look at her. When she tried to get closer, he suddenly dashed away again. Zaida quickly chased after him, but her foot tripped over the wire of Kade's gaming console. She let out a loud cry as she fell, landing with a heavy crash that echoed through the room. At work, while Kade and his manager were talking, a customer suddenly walked up to them. She asked if they had an extra-large size of the dress she was holding. The manager smiled slyly and told her that she would look perfect in the outfit, adding they'll fix the mix-up. Then, turning to Kade with a mischievous look, he said he was sure Kade wouldn't mind helping her find what she needed. Kade's heart dropped, but he forced a polite smile and agreed. The customer giggled and thanked him happily. Inside, Kade felt like his energy was running out. He could almost see his inner battery at 5%. As he helped the customer look through the racks, she started chatting with him. She asked if he enjoyed working there, and he replied with a dull, "Yeah, it's pretty chill." His voice didn't sound convincing even to himself. Then she asked if he got to meet interesting people, and he awkwardly said, "Sometimes." In his mind, he groaned, thinking he sounded boring. Before he could recover, she suddenly asked about the size of his earplug. He blinked, then answered that it was half an inch now. When he noticed she was wearing tapers as jewelry, he wanted to say something but decided to stay quiet so he wouldn't sound rude. At that moment, he felt his inner battery drop again to 3%. Meanwhile, the manager had already found the right size for her. He held up the gown and the customer squealed in delight, thanking him over and over. When Kade finished beeping her clothes at the counter, she smiled and said she was glad they had her size, adding that she would wear it every night. Kade raised an eyebrow and asked if she liked it that much. She laughed softly and said it made her feel like a fallen angel. Kade thought that sounded pretty dramatic, but she explained that she just met an angel who fell to earth. As she left, he waved and told her to come again. But her words stuck in his head, an angel who fell to earth. He couldn't help but think of Zaida, standing in his room wearing nothing but a pair of pants and a bra, completely clueless about human modesty. He turned to his manager and asked if there were more of those dresses in a medium size, then hesitated and added, maybe a large one would be better. His manager stared at him in confusion, clearly wondering what he was talking about. That night, when Kade got home, he unlocked the door and sighed loudly, glad that he could finally get some peace. The moment he stepped inside, he dropped his bag, sank to the sofa, and closed his eyes. He was exhausted, too tired to even move another step. At last, he could rest. His inner battery increased to 15%. But just when he started drifting off, he heard his name being called softly. It was Zaida. She stood near him, smiling shyly as she greeted him. He looked up at her and asked if everything was okay. Zaida quickly explained that while she was proud of washing a dish successfully, she might have made a small mess while trying to feed Cosmo. Kade brushed it off, telling her not to worry about it, that mistakes were bound to happen. But she went on, saying she really tried to clean up her mess and had done her best not to break the first rule. That made him pause. He squinted at her suspiciously, suddenly nervous. When he stepped into the kitchen, his heart nearly stopped. There, in the sink, sat his favorite gaming console, drenched under the steady stream of a running tap. His eyes widened in disbelief. Beside him stood Zaida, calm and unaware of the chaos she had caused. She glanced at him with quiet confidence and assured him not to worry, that she would fix everything soon. But Kade didn't even respond. His brain stopped working. His body gave up. That was it. His inner battery finally hit zero.
Kade held his head and burst into hysterical laughter, his voice echoing through the room. Zaida called out to him, her tone filled with fear as she watched him. He began ranting, listing everything that had been weighing him down, from Ellie to his job and so many other things that spilled out all at once. She stood frozen for a moment, watching him with wide, worried eyes, then slowly moved closer to him. Gently, she reached out and placed her hand on his head, telling him softly, using the name she always called him, Earthling, that everything would be okay. Kade hesitated for a second, then grabbed her hand, his expression dark and tired. He told her that if she wanted to stay on Earth, she needed to stop calling him that name. She quickly apologized, but before she could say more, he asked her why she trusted him so much when they barely knew each other. He moved closer, pushing her lightly toward the counter and trapping her there, asking if she even understood the danger she was putting herself in. He reminded her that he was still a man. Zaida only stared at him, surprised but calm. Then, with a small huff, she told him that if he kept acting this way, she would take her trust back, even though she was the one who gave it first.
She reminded him that he had been the one who promised not to take advantage of the situation. Suddenly, something seemed to click in her mind, and she blurted out that maybe he was a pervert after all, referring to the lewd pictures she had seen earlier. Kade froze, confused at first, until realization hit him. His eyes widened and he shouted, demanding to know if she had gone through his things. She answered casually that she only wanted to observe the house. Their voices rose as they argued, Kade accusing her of breaking his things and Zaida defending herself, saying she didn't mean to and was trying her best to fix it. As she continued explaining herself, he noticed something. Her body was trembling. The sight made him pause. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly, realizing how far things had gone. He muttered that arguing wouldn't solve anything and apologized, saying he just felt drained. Before he could continue, Zaida floated away from him, her face filled with disappointment as she let out a small huff. Kade watched her leave, regret washing over him. He knew instantly that he had messed up. Later that night, a delivery person knocked on Kade's door, holding a box of pizza. He muttered a tired thank you, took the box, and went back inside. After placing a slice on a plate, he walked over to Zaida's door and knocked softly, telling her that dinner was ready. From behind the door came her muffled voice saying she wasn't hungry. Kade sighed. He knew she had to be hungry. She hadn't eaten anything since morning. He leaned closer to the door and tried to persuade her, admitting that he knew she was mad at him and that she had every right to be. After a few moments of silence, her voice came again, quiet but firm. She reminded him that the second rule was trust. Wasn't she supposed to trust him? Her words made Kade flinch. He apologized again and again, his tone full of guilt, promising that he would try harder to trust her too. Slowly, the door creaked open and Zaida stepped out. The soft light from the hallway reflected in her eyes. She admitted that the pizza smelled really nice. She took a slice, bit into it, and her face instantly brightened. It was delicious. Following him to the table, she sat down and squealed happily about how good pizza tasted. Kade couldn't help but laugh a little, saying he was glad she agreed. Then he reached beside him and handed her a small bag, explaining that he had gotten her a few things from work. Zaida looked surprised as he told her to take it as an apology gift, saying the items were things she might need. She opened the bag curiously and pulled out a bra. Tilting her head, she asked if it was meant for the eyes, then placed it over them to test. Kade groaned and held his chest dramatically, trying to explain what it was really for. When she smiled and said she understood, he could only sigh of relief. He told her there was also a nightgown and a few outfits inside. Zaida asked eagerly if she could wear the nightgown right away. Kade explained that she didn't need his permission for something that belonged to her. A few minutes later, she came out wearing the dress, twirling happily and complimenting how beautiful it looked. Kade just stood there completely speechless. She smiled and asked if she could have another slice of pizza, but he warned her that she might stain her dress. She quickly promised that she wouldn't. Watching her laugh and enjoy her food, Kade felt something ease inside him. For the first time that day, he felt calm. His battery percentage was finally a little higher. Later on, he began showing her how to feed the cat. She was supposed to pour the crumbs into a small bowl. He apologized, saying he had assumed she already knew. She only laughed and apologized for breaking his game, then promised that from then on she would be more careful. He found himself staring at her again. This time, his eyes lingered on her lips. When she noticed that he had zoned out, she called his name. Not Earthling, this time she called his actual name, Kade. He snapped back quickly, gave a nervous laugh, and suggested they get some sleep. She nodded, and the cat just sat there, chewing slowly with a smile as she watched them. Over the next few days, he kept teaching her simple things: how to use mouthwash without letting it burn, how certain stuff like the hairdryer worked, how to tell what was safe to use or not, and how to use the toaster. Every night they cooked something new together, but that particular night felt different. As he helped her pack her hair, she asked excitedly what they would be making. He told her it was spaghetti, one of his favorite meals. While talking, he noticed a small stain near her lips. It was icing from cupcakes. She explained that she had eaten another cupcake from the previous night because they were so delicious. He gently wiped the stain away and reminded her that cupcakes were meant to be eaten after dinner as dessert. When she asked why he hadn't eaten any, he told her he wasn't a fan of sweets. She looked surprised and asked why he had made them in the first place. He smiled and said he just wanted her to learn how to bake them. Then he admitted that he was hungry, suggesting they get started with dinner. After they finished cooking, she admired the dish happily and said it wasn't as hard as she had expected. But before they ate, he asked her to explain what spaghetti was and how it was made. She gave the right answer, and he nodded approvingly before asking which country it came from. When she got that right too, he smiled and raised his hand for a high five, or rather, a high two. After the meal, he noticed that Zaida ate quietly and asked if she didn't like it. She said she did. But on her planet, people didn't get to choose what they ate or wore, so this was special to her. She thanked him sincerely and promised to repay his kindness someday. He told her it wasn't necessary, but she stood up suddenly, saying she wanted to make something for him, a dish from her planet. He asked how she planned to do that, but she rushed off toward the fridge, telling him to just sit still. As she searched for ingredients, he called out that she really didn't have to go through the trouble, but she insisted that many of their foods tasted similar and that she could make something close to what she knew. After a while, she placed a strange-looking meal in front of him. He blinked at it and said flatly that he wasn't eating that, it looked like something from one of his video games. She only smiled, picked up a fork, and told him they would taste it together on the count of 3. When they both took a bite, silence followed. Then he nodded, surprised, saying it actually tasted good. She smiled proudly, happy that it turned out the way she wanted. They looked at each other for a moment before laughing together. That day, Zaida taught him something new, that even the strangest things could bring people closer. After the meal, they sat together in the living room playing a board game together. Zaida apologized again for damaging his precious child, but Kade told her it was fine. He was already saving up for a better one. Then said he was glad he found the board game because he could use it to teach her about money. As they went on playing, her token landed on a treasure card. He handed it to her to read it. But she only stared at it, then admitted she was unable to. He looked surprised and asked why she couldn't read it. She simply said she couldn't. Confused, he asked if she could at least use her telepathy to understand it, but she shook her head. She explained that she had only learned the basics of his language, just enough for them to talk and understand each other. Kade groaned, realizing that now he would have to teach her how to read and write too. He dropped his head onto the table in frustration, mumbling that he needed to find a faster way to teach her. Zaida was about to suggest using telepathy again when he suddenly lifted his head and shouted, "TV!" He said that television had taught him almost everything he knew. Just a few hours of watching it, he claimed, and she would learn a lot. Zaida's eyes lit up. That sounded interesting to her. Later that evening, they sat down to watch TV together. Kade showed her how to use the remote control, and she looked at it with amusement, pressing the buttons carefully. When he leaned closer to help her with one of the buttons, they ended up sitting very close. He froze for a moment, his heart beating faster. Trying to sound calm, he said that was all she needed to know about the remote. Zaida smiled and said she understood. Meanwhile, Kade's mind was spinning. He wondered why he had sat so close to her and whether he was always this carefree around others. There was so much space on the couch, and he asked himself if he should quietly move away without making it awkward. But then again, she didn't seem bothered at all. But now that he noticed it, he couldn't unnotice it. As he sat there thinking, Zaida called his name softly, "Kade?" and asked what kind of shows he liked to watch. He looked at her for a moment. She reminded him so much of someone from his past, someone he's trying hard to forget. The resemblance almost hurt. He rubbed his forehead, thinking bitterly that the universe must be playing tricks on him. Zaida, noticing his change in expression, reached out and touched his arm. She asked worriedly if he was tired and apologized if her lessons had worn him out. Kade quickly shook his head, saying he was fine. She looked uncertain and asked again if he was sure. He smiled faintly and told her he was just lost in thought, wondering silently why she was always so kind, so full of light. He told her not to worry, then reassured himself that even if she looked like someone from his past, she was different. Still, he didn't want to go through that kind of pain again. Later that night, while they watched TV, Kade eventually drifted off to sleep. Zaida's attention shifted from the screen to him. She watched him quietly, her expression soft and curious. When his head slowly slipped and came to rest on her lap, she froze for a moment, unsure what to do. Then gently, she began to pat his head. He looked peaceful, tired but peaceful. She decided to let him sleep. After some time, Kade stirred awake. Something felt soft and warm beneath him. When he looked up, he saw Zaida smiling down at him, asking how he felt. His eyes widened, and he immediately sat upright, his face serious. He didn't want to let things get too comfortable. Not again. Trying to change the subject, he asked what kind of shows she had learned from the TV. Zaida's face brightened as she eagerly listed everything she had learned: words, expressions, and even a few jokes. Kade listened, forcing a smile, though his eye twitched slightly. Teaching her was going to be a lot harder than he thought. At work, Kade's manager had just resumed work after being absent for the past few days. Kade sat at his desk, staring at him with a tired look. He wouldn't stop trying to start a conversation. Kade finally told him that it wasn't personal. He just wasn't good at talking. The manager leaned forward, saying it was perfect because he's the same way. Then he suddenly asked if the person Kade bought the gown for liked it. Kade groaned, saying she did, and asked his manager why he always did this, but the man only shrugged and asked what he meant. Kade stared at him for a moment, then told him that he used to mind his own business before, but now he was becoming too nosy. The manager laughed softly and said he only wanted to know Kade better. Kade frowned and asked him why. The man simply said that he just wanted to, but Kade wasn't satisfied. He said he wouldn't say anything until he heard the real reason. His manager stared at him for a moment, then admitted that the truth was too embarrassing to say. Kade sighed and said he wasn't sure if he even wanted to know anymore. Just then, the man's phone rang. He picked it up quickly, saying the call was important and that he'd tell Kade the reason the next day. As he walked away, talking on the phone about a new model he was supposed to meet for his business, Kade just watched him leave, shaking his head. The man was definitely a weirdo. Later that night, when Kade got home, he unlocked the door and greeted, like always. Zaida floated happily in the air, calling his name again and again. Kade looked up confused and asked her what was going on. She showed him a manga book she was holding, looking so proud of herself. He groaned immediately. She had been snooping in his room again. Folding his arms, he told her that no matter what anyone said, his love for romance manga would never change. Zaida looked surprised. She said there was nothing like that in Zodia, and asked what it meant. Kade tried to figure out how to explain anime culture to an alien, but the words came out all mixed up as he talked about magical girls, robots, monsters, and love. Zaida just looked at him blankly, clearly lost. He sighed and asked if anything he said made sense. From the look on her face, he already got the answer to his question. She flipped a page open and asked curiously if humans actually made the pictures inside. Kade told her that people drew them and that art was something many loved on Earth. She stared at the book for a moment, then asked if anyone could drew art. Kade nodded, correcting her grammar then, and asked if she wanted to try. Her eyes lit up as she said she did. A few minutes later, Zaida sat in front of a table with paper and a pencil, while Kade rested on the sofa playing a video game. He asked if she was only looking at the pictures and not the words. She said yes, adding that once she learned to read, she would love to read all of it. Kade told her reading was very important on Earth. Zaida looked at her drawing carefully. It actually looked good for a first-timer. Kade leaned forward, asking if that was really her first time drawing. She nodded and asked him why. He said it looked amazing for her first attempt. She thanked him, but her expression soon fell. She said she wanted her art to look like the ones in the manga. Kade patted her head gently and told her that good skill came with practice, saying, "You've got it, Zay." Zaida blinked in surprise. She repeated the word, softly, Zay. She asked if it was a special name for her. Kade froze for a moment, saying it just slipped out. But Zaida only smiled, her eyes glowing softly, and said she loved it. She told him that from then on, he should call her whenever he wanted. After some time, Kade fell asleep on the sofa while Zaida kept drawing quietly. She glanced at him as he slept. He looked at peace. A soft smile formed on her face. Standing up carefully, she took a small piece of paper and placed it gently under his pillow. Then she turned off the light and went to sleep. On the paper was a simple drawing, a picture of the two of them,
Kade and Zaida together.
As Zaida slept, the light suddenly came on, making her open her eyes slowly. Kade stood there and quickly apologized. She rubbed her eyes and asked sleepily if it was morning already, but he told her it was only 2 o'clock in the morning. She blinked, confused, and asked if he was getting ready for work that early. He smirked and said no. Confused, she asked why he was getting dressed up. He put on his hoodie, explaining that he was just going grocery shopping. She tilted her head and asked if that was something Earthlings normally did at such a strange time. He sighed and said no again, adding that he just hated crowds and preferred shopping when the streets were empty. As he turned to leave, Zaida floated past him toward the wardrobe. He frowned and asked what she was doing. She said she was getting dressed because she wanted to go with him. Before he could stop her, she began undressing right in front of him, making his eyes widen in shock. His face turned red as he quickly spun around, telling her she wasn't ready at all. Zaida added softly that she wanted to explore Earth beyond his home, and with few people around, it was the perfect opportunity. He agreed with her, then muttered that she was getting a little too comfortable around him. She replied that she had seen his lewd books, and the women in them didn't wear anything, so this wasn't anything new to him. He stuttered nervously and admitted that she wasn't wrong. A few moments later, Zaida announced cheerfully that she was done dressing. When Kade turned around, she stood proudly before him, saying she looked every bit like an Earthling. As Kade drove, Zaida leaned toward the window, her eyes wide with excitement as she watched the world rush by. She kept commenting on everything she saw, amazed how colorful Earth was, even in the dark. Kade smiled a little and asked her what color Zodia was. She turned to him and said simply that it was right. He nodded, saying it sounded cool, but Zaida shook her head gently, saying Earth was full of cool. She giggled softly and said that cars felt so free, like flying anywhere you wanted. Kade agreed, saying that driving could feel liberating sometimes. Then he reached for the radio and suggested they listen to some music, but as the loud song filled the car and the lyrics played, he quickly winced and said he wasn't really in a music mood. Zaida looked curiously at him, wondering why he had turned it on in the first place. When they arrived at the mall, Kade told her to stay close and not talk to anyone. If anyone tried, he said, she should let him handle it. Zaida nodded but kept turning her head in every direction, fascinated by everything around her. As he picked items from the shelves, she asked why there were so many of the same thing. He explained that they were different brands, each using different ingredients with different prices. She frowned slightly, saying it was strange to her. While she was still talking, Kade noticed someone watching them from a corner. The person's gaze lingered for a moment before they suddenly ran off. He frowned, feeling uneasy. Zaida didn't notice. She was too busy pointing at a sign and asking if they could get frozen pizza. Kade sighed and took her hand gently, saying they should just go to the games instead. At the arcade section, Zaida asked curiously about a game on the shelf. As he explained how it was played, it dawned on him that most of the games required reading, which would make it a bit hard for Zaida to join in. Kade scratched his chin, wondering if there was a game she could play without needing to read. While he was searching, Zaida's eyes caught onto a cute stuffed doll hanging up high. Her face lit up, and before Kade could react, she floated off the ground toward it, hugging the doll tightly with pure joy. When Kade turned around and saw her hovering midair, his heart nearly stopped. He rushed over, pulled her down quickly, and whispered sharply for her to stop doing that in public. But before he could calm her down, a loud voice shouted from the doorway, "No way! I can't believe it!" Kade froze, eyes wide with shock. A sinking feeling hit him as he thought grimly to himself, "We're doomed."
There was nothing Kade could say. There was no explanation he could possibly give for someone floating in the air. His heart raced fast and sweat began to run down his face. Panic filled his mind. If anyone found out what Zaida really was, she'd end up being taken away by scientists and he'd probably never be heard from again. He swallowed hard, already imagining the worst. The person at the doorway was still staring at them, gasping loudly, but then, instead of screaming or calling for help, her expression changed completely. She dropped her shoulders and said, with a hurt look, that Kade finally had a girlfriend and that she was a total beauty. Kade froze. Zaida just blinked in confusion. Before either of them could react, the woman covered her mouth in embarrassment and ran out. Once she was gone, Zaida turned to Kade curiously and asked if he knew the Earthling. Kade shook his head quickly and said she must have mistaken him for someone else. He then placed her gently on the ground and scolded her. She was already drawing too much attention. He told her she couldn't just fly around whenever she wanted. Zeta looked nervous and said softly that she had forgotten. Then she added that the woman was beautiful. Kade sighed. She turned to him and asked softly what else they needed to buy, and he told her they should check the electronics section. At the electronics section, Kade's attention was caught by a game console on sale, while Zeta stood beside another display, staring at a large screen showing two people dancing. She called out to him, asking what they were doing, but before he could answer, the screen suddenly changed to something else. She blinked and shook her head, telling him it was nothing when he asked what was wrong. Kade, too excited about his new console, didn't think much of it. He grabbed the box and they headed for the counter. As he scanned the items, Zeta caught sight of a nearby mirror and began staring at her reflection with fascination, touching her face and hair. Kade called out to her that it was time to go, and she quickly followed him. In the car, Zeta smiled and thanked him for letting her come along. She said she had really enjoyed shopping and seeing the things of Earth. Kade only sighed and told her again not to fly in public, admitting that he was so scared. But as he drove, he found himself lost in thought. The whole situation wasn't that bad. He glanced at her quietly, noticing the distant look in her eyes. Breaking the silence, he wondered aloud if not being able to fly ever made her feel trapped. After a pause, he added that she could always fly as much as she wanted at home, especially when it's just the two of them. The word home seemed to linger in the air, bringing a faint smile to her lips. She replied that contrary to what he believed, she had never felt this free in her entire life. His expression softened, though a trace of worry lingered in his eyes, as if he felt a quiet ache for her. When they finally arrived home, Kade eagerly brought out his latest gaming console, proudly referring to it as his new precious child. Zeta couldn't help but think of the previous precious child and promised not to harm this one. Kade brushed it off with a grin, saying he had already planned on getting a replacement anyway. Then, handing her a controller, he invited her to experience what he called his favorite thing in the world. She accepted, listening as he patiently explained how to use it. As they played side by side, the room filled with the soft glow of the screen and quiet laughter. Yet, Kade's thoughts began to drift back to their earlier ride. He wanted to ask what she had been thinking about, or even what her life was like before they met. But the warmth of the moment soon dulled his thoughts. Drowsiness settled over them, and before long, they had both fallen asleep, leaning gently against each other's shoulders, lost in the quiet comfort of the night. And that's where we'll pause for today. I hope you've enjoyed this story so far. It's only going to get more intense from here. If you're eager to see what happens next, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Beneath the Story, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. You can also leave a super thanks to help support the channel and keep these stories coming your way. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.